And we are live. So I don't know how many people are coming in yet, but this is a little bit of a different format than I usually do for the live show. And once you've filtered in, once folks start filtering in, we'll see how it sounds. We'll see how it looks. Using a little bit of a different camera setup and a little bit of a different audio setup, but it is Saturday. Saturday night is all right for streaming. So if you're here, let me know in the comments that you're here. Make sure you give us a thumbs up. Let me know that you can hear me. And we'll really get rolling here shortly. Looks like we got a few people starting to trickle in. About 15 of you, 2 thumbs up. 15 of you in here, there should be like 15 thumbs up, right? So if you're out there, let me know how the stream looks and let me know how it sounds. So normally when I stream, I'm in my office, and I've got the Rodecaster Pro and I've got just a webcam. So tonight I'm streaming from my Canon M50. I ordered a fake battery for that, and it allows me to power it as long as the camera will stay powered. And does it sound good? Everything looks good, sounds good. Perfect. So what I'm going to do tonight is, first of all, I'm going to open it up for questions over in the live chat. And then I've got a box of cables that I ordered. I was going to do this really long, cable video, and I'm still going to do a couple cable videos, but I got this box of cable that I ordered, and we're going to open that up and take a look at that. So any questions that you want answered, make sure you're putting those over in the live chat. And I know this is definitely a different time, than I normally stream. We usually stream in the morning, but the weather was so nice today that we had a bunch of stuff we needed to get done, and we wanted to spend some time outside. And if you've been with me for a while, you remember probably when I was a little thinner in the videos. So trying to get back to that as well. So out exercising, making healthy choices, and just really enjoying nature. So any tech questions you've got, go ahead and put them in the comments, and I will get to those questions as I see them come up. If you watched my video the other night, we'll look at a couple things here. If you watched my first video on the UC3200, which I'm super excited about this, they did confirm they're not going to let me keep the UC3200. So that's kind of a drag, but as long as I'm creating videos on it, it'll be here in the lab. So, all right. Looks like we got a question. Got our first question here. Michael says, "Hi, Willie. Long-time viewer. Quick question. What is the best practice for DNS when making new networks, WAN and LAN?" Well, Michael, can you build on that a little bit? And what do you mean by best practice for DNS when making new WAN and LANs? Hey, Unky Joe's here. Jacob Johnson is here. Jacob, I will get with you at some point. Jacob has been so good to the channel. I have to thank him. Every time I see him, I've got 2 Dell R710 servers sitting here that he donated to the channel that we're going to run ESXi on. We're actually going to hook it here to the UC3200. And he actually bought a 4-post cabinet, and I've got to figure out exactly what I'm going to do with it. But it only makes sense if you've got big, heavy servers to put them in a 4-post instead of a 2-post. If you can see all the switches behind me here and people are wanting to know, well, I've got switches that I need to review. So I need to run them. I need to make sure that I understand how they're talking. I have enough of a broad base that once I log in, it takes me just a few seconds to get up to speed. So first we've got the Aruba Instant On. That is a brand new switch. Then under that's the Cisco Small Business. I've got a TP-Link switch, Linksys switch, Netgear switch, a Unified Gen 2, and then Extreme Networks. I also have a Cisco switch down there that is going to be, it's kind of a sad panda right now because it's got a bent rack ear, right? So I've got to get that straightened out. I did find, so I've got a Juniper 48, an EX 4200, 48 port. So it's a Juniper switch. It's all SFP ports. and I found somebody that had a rack ear for that and an AC power supply, because the one that I've got has a DC power supply. Now I could power it, but then I'd have to. I do have a DC power supply for another switch, but I'd have to hook all that up, and I need to do some streamline kind of things. So I'm not, I don't want to run DC here right now. Like when I run DC on that other switch that you're going to see, it's going to be a whole different setup. And I've also got a Natonix switch that we're going to throw in. I love those switches if you're a WISP, or if you need switching in outdoor environments. Natonix is awesome. So yeah, this isn't necessarily the dungeon. So this is a downstairs back room. So I've got an office and it's full, and now I've actually had to take over more square footage of another area. But the good news is my wife has her own office, so at least I'm not impeding on her any longer. And we've got some things, like I've got a piano that I want to give away for free. So Jacob, maybe if I can get rid of this piano, which you can't see, it's right on the other side of this. If I get rid of the piano, Jacob, I'm thinking that the rack can go right there. I've got an open breaker over here. I could dedicate an entire breaker just to that rack. So that might be what I'm doing. I'll have to get a hold of my electrician. But all right, so let's see. Harry asked, what camera does a Synology Diskstation would support? So Synology surveillance station supports like 7,000 plus cameras, and I actually Reolink has sent me one of their new 5 megapixel pan tilt zoom. It's got a 3 times optical zoom in it, so you're going to see that video coming soon. I got to get a couple more of these UC3200 videos done. I got some more Protectly videos. I got Switch videos. I got all kinds of videos I got to get to. They support a lot of cameras. So they even support the Ubiquiti cameras. And with the Ubiquiti cameras, you just have to grab an RTSP stream, and that's all you can do. So you can't make any adjustments to the camera. But yeah, so those proprietary cameras, as long as they can do an RTSP stream, you can at least grab that RTSP stream and record from it, and let the Synology do the video analytics on that. Is there motion? Is there not motion? Things like that. So you can use a wide variety of cameras with Surveillance Station. All right. As soon as Michael clarifies his question about DNS, we will answer that as well. Yes, and Unky Joe is in the house. All right. Steven says, I am using the Edge Router X and have a Unify ACLR, Unify AC NWAL, Unify AC Lite, and 2 Unify ACM. I would like to do some DPI. Would you recommend the Dream Machine or an upgraded ER or something else? So it depends on what your internet speed is. So if you really want to see what's going on, right? A lot of stuff is encrypted now. But if you really want to see what's going on, you could get a cert. You could get a legit certificate, install it on all the web browsers, in your house. Install that certificate on all the devices. Some devices, these cheap IoT devices, you're not going to be able to install that cert on. But Untangle actually has I think it's a $29 or a $79. Unky Joe, help me out here. Not sure, what the price on that is. But they actually have an SSL inspector module that you can buy for Untangle that actually allows you to take a look at what's going on with your SSL traffic. Or you could run Pfsense on a Protectly box, and that would get you a little bit more. But the Edge Router X is a great router, right? So with an Edge Router X at like $49, there is absolutely zero excuse for anyone to ever have RDP open to the internet, right? Because you can create a VPN, and we don't need RDP open to the internet. Go out to Shodan and look at all the RDP that's open. It'll make you sick. All right, next question. No free BS. I was not bad. My wife did not send me to the basement. She's actually plotting out our walking path for tomorrow, so I thought I would leave her alone. Somebody did miss my Synology giveaway, and I hope to be able to do more of those giveaways this year. That was so fun, right? And everybody received their package. Everybody's having fun with the gear, so that's awesome. Is this my normal haircut or a COVID haircut? You look different. So the lighting's different. The camera's different. The angle is different. There's a lot of different things. I'm usually standing up, blue background. I'm usually not this well lit. I am sunburnt. I am really sunburnt. I was mowing and we were walking. And so my hair's been all sweaty and messed up. And I actually got like a legit haircut because here in Illinois, they lifted the ban on hair cutteries, barbershops. And so a friend of ours, she owns a salon and she cut my hair last week. So I got a professional haircut. So Stephen, if you want to run DPI and you want to run analytics, IDS, IPS, things like that, you could start with like a Protectly 4-port with Pfsense, or you could get a Protectly and throw Untangle on it. Brandon Hickman, he says Home Pro is $50 a year. We must be talking about Untangle on that. So that's actually not a bad deal. Yeah, and I usually do wear a hat in the live stream because I've usually been out dealing with the chickens and mowing and doing whatever else early in the morning, or I've had a phone call or something like that, and then have to come inside and get on the live stream. And Unky Joe is confirming that home license for Untangle is $50 a year. And that's not too bad. That's not too bad at all. Yeah, a lot of people have Untangle boxes running. So while we're waiting for more questions to come in, I want to thank you all for joining me on this Saturday evening. These are the hard drives that we are going to be installing in the... trying to get the autofocus there. This is the Seagate Nitro 960 gigabyte SAS drive, and they're rated for 12 gigabits a second. So these things are going to be super fast. Unfortunately, like I said, I do have to send these back, but we are going to punish these things while we have them. So maybe Seagate will just say, keep it. So then I'll have to get something to run SAS drives. And if one of the main differences between SAS and SATA, SAS can be addressed by multiple controllers, SATA cannot. That's one of the bigger differentiating items. We're going to install these in the next video, and we're going to talk a little bit more about SAS and those standards. Because one thing that gets people really confused, right, is you can buy a UC3200 and you can buy SATA drives, and the SATA drives will fit because the connectors, I don't know if you can see that or not, but anyway, a SAS drive and a SATA drive, the connectors are pretty much identical. So we can, plug those into the same interface, but they do not speak the same language. All right, let's see. Somebody says, can the GrandStream 6208 act as a host for OpenVPN between the PBX and IP phones that are offsite? No, the 6208 cannot. Now, there is some speculation about the 6300 series. I do have a beta unit here, but it does not have VPN built in, and they actually reached out to those of us who are beta testing and those of us who are GrandStream integrators and asked, do we think it would be helpful if the GrandStream UCM itself was a VPN server? And I said no. I do want some sort of a mechanism for remote phones, but I don't know that it needs to be a full-blown open VPN server, because the thing is, it's, GrandStream's in the same boat as all these other vendors, Ubiquity, where the gear is very inexpensive. So it's awesome because we get awesome gear, but then somebody buys it, expects it to do something that it doesn't, and then it's a thing. So no, I don't recommend that. If you are looking to do that, I would actually put a GWN 7000 in, which is the GrandStream router, because they make the open VPN configuration for their phones so easy with their firewall. And if you're interested in a video on that, let me know, because we have actually been deploying that and a lot of Pfsense boxes. Let's see here. Anyone have recommendations for completely free open source SSL inspection? Boy, I would love to know that. That's something right there. We'll have to see what they've got. Can the UDM connect to site to Pfsense? So yes, if you can, the UDM or the UDM Pro can create a standard IPsec site-to-site VPN. So I actually have a couple customers with UDM Pros, and we have them connected to one as a WatchGuard and one as a Sonic Wall on the other side, and it works just fine. Henry asks, how to apply RSTP, and STP. So yeah, that's a video that I've been meaning to do, is how to configure a spanning tree properly. Greg says, hi, Willie, longtime viewer. Have you ever tried the MileSight cameras, as they are all SIP? I've used them with the Grandstream phones. So it's funny that you should actually talk about that. I've not used those, but I actually have a Grandstream beta camera right here. So and actually this may have been released into production already, but Grandstream has updated all of their IP cameras. Now, these are actually fully ONVIF compliant, so they are not a proprietary closed system. You can connect these to ONVIF. They are also fully SIP compatible, right? So if you take a look at the path that Grandstream is going down, Grandstream is coming out. I mean, they're going to beat Ubiquiti to full building automation, and they're probably going to do it better, to be honest with you, because they're using open standards, not closed systems. But you've got one of these mounted. You've got one of the new intercoms. This comes in motion, it rings the guard shack. The guard, starts a conversation. I mean, there's the applications are endless. The one that I really like is monitoring areas where there's not supposed to be people, or where people could get hurt. And then if somebody comes in range during a certain, set of hours, then we make a phone call and we open that two-way dialogue, ask the people what they're doing there. Then I also have over here, this is the Aruba instant on access points. They sent a bunch of us these, right? And I asked them what the console port was for, and they ignored me. They said that the USB port is for future development, but these do actually have a console port. So the UART cable that you saw us use with the Edge Router X, we're going to plug that into here. They say they can't be flashed, but if I can plug a UART cable into it, I'll bet you we can flash this with a standard firmware, or maybe an open WRT, and get rid of the cloud-based proprietary stuff that's on there. But you're going to see a video of these first. I have been using these because I didn't want to deploy them and then just do a video. They can do so many more things than other people realize. And really one of the easiest things on these is the meshing. And the mesh is super easy on this. So I've been running them in production just because I want to know 100% some of those little gotchas and things like that before I do a video. All right. Jacob says the 710s have SAS bays. Sweet. Well, if we beat these drives up and they let me keep the drives, then I may use those SAS controllers, Jacob. All right. And Unky Joe confirms the 710s are SAS and SATA compatible. That is fantastic. That is good news. All right, so while we're waiting for more questions to come in, I got this box of cables here. So I had opened it, and then we had to move. We didn't have to, but we decided to buy a house, which was one of the best things that we've ever done, is become property owners. Excuse me. And my knife was in here, and now it's nowhere to be found. So I'll use this little screwdriver that if Mr. Zier was watching, that was my ag teacher. Everything's a hammer, right? Let's see here. By the way, the allergies are crazy, but we walked between our walk this morning and our walk this afternoon, we walked 10 miles today. So I'm feeling pretty good. I was going to have an adult beverage, and I was like, do I really need that tonight? Just trying to be a little bit more health conscious. So sticking on the water and stuff. If Sean Woods was on here, Sean would be proud. It's something, just to kind of, make sure that I'm making better choices. I got people that depend on me, 3 kids and a wife, and we've got shared responsibilities, and I want to make sure that I'm around as long as I can, and I want to make sure I'm around to annoy my coworkers and my fellow YouTubers as long as I can be. And Sean is here. Sean is always around. Sean and I are friends. I would consider us friends. But let's see here. You now own your own bank. Yeah, Unky Joe. somebody asked, being OnVIF compatible seems like it might not need to support RTSP. So those GrandStream cameras support RTSP streams, and they support OnVIF and. So, and they're going to be super price competitive. Super price competitive. You're not even going to believe it when the prices come out. I'm glad Sean could join us. So I posted a picture of this on my social media one time, and people thought it was just a box of junk. And it's not really just a box of junk. It's a box of cables. And Show Me Cables down in Missouri, I actually had to buy all these. So each one of these, serves a specific function and is a specific type of cable. And you can see they probably hated me because I ordered 18 to 24 inches of almost every communications cable that they had available. So what they did was they put these pieces of tape, and it's got the part numbers on it, right? And I even went for the big Mamba Jamba. I don't know how many. I can't remember how many pairs this is. I think this is. Let's see here. This might be. No, this is more than 30 pair. This might be a 50 pair, but it's direct burial, so it's got the grease in it and all that. And you normally see this from a telephone company. Like some people would call this like a trunk line. What else? So here's some Cat 5 that's flat, right? Have any of you ever seen this flat Cat 5? I got it because I want to know how it's going to hold up. I want to know if it's going to be a piece of garbage. So all of these cables were intended for me, to do testing on and to show everybody here. Here we've got, what is this? Yeah, the dude who had to fill my order. So this is just standard phone cable, just a 4 conductor. He was probably cussing me the entire time. Like, what is wrong with this guy? Just order a spool. I don't want a spool. I want 24 inches. Let's see. But yeah, so this was sitting in there, and I just thought I'd open it up. This could be alarm cable, I think. At one time, I had a plan for each and every one of these to do a video on. And we've got some shielded cable here. One of the more interesting cables that I've run across on the internet is actually a chew-proof cable. It's like an armored cable. It's like surrounded like a steel or an aluminum sheath so that animals can't chew through it. It's absolutely fantastic. All right, let's see. Michael says that he saw Garth Brooks in a hole-in-the-wall bar in Norman, Oklahoma in the early 80s when he was a nobody. So we went to St. Louis, Missouri last year when he was doing a stadium tour, which is where this shirt's from. And the stadium he was at was a stadium where the football team used to play. And he sold over 75,000 tickets. The arena was completely sold out. The lines were mad. The concert had to start 2 hours late because they were serving regular concession food. I mean, they didn't realize what they were getting themselves into. And the bathrooms were so backed up that women were using the men's restroom. It was absolutely crazy, but it was a good time. Yeah. Yeah, they say I have another friend who's in the radio industry, and so anytime a band is around or an artist, he gets to meet them. And he said that Garth Brooks is the most unaffected bazillionaire he's ever met in his entire life. So, all right, somebody says that flat. I have to watch how I'm speaking. Flat Cat 5 cable is crap. I had to figure that this cable is going to be susceptible to all kinds of things. Especially where you're going to run it. I'm trying to think of like a real good use for this, but they literally sell this thing. They sell this cable. I mean, so many. I can't. I mean, this had to come off of a roll. Like a 1,000-foot roll. Like I'm trying to figure out a good use for it, but I saw Cat 5 and all right. Cat 7 from Micro Center. Yeah, Cat 7's not a thing in the United States. So good luck with your Cat 7. And to be honest with you, you really don't need anything over Cat 6. If you're going to go 40 gig or 100 gig, you're not using copper. You're using fiber anyway. So all these people that want to be Cat 7, Cat 8, blah, 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 you don't need anything over Cat 6, Cat 6A. In fact, on short runs, Cat 5e is going to do you just fine. what sort of termination is on a flat cat. So there is no termination on this cable, which is the really weird thing. And I was looking at that and I'm like, how in the hell are we going to terminate this? And the conductors actually, so if you look at this, the conductors actually run down this center stripe. And there's like a piece of plastic. So there's 4 conductors on each side. So I don't know, man. It's if anybody is interested in the actual name of this, it's AMP Net Connect 510 series 1499119/24. So if anybody wanted to look that up, yeah, I like fiber. I also like DAC cables. So when we are building out server rooms, small data centers, a lot of times we're not using just standard SFP pluses. We're going to buy DAC connections and run those. Depending on what kind of cross connects we get into, we're going to use fiber. A Cat 5e is still going to be around for a long time. Just like everybody's like, oh, all the IP version 4 IP addresses are gone. No, they're not. They're spoken for. They're allocated, which means that service providers own them and can still hand them out. I can go right now and get a Class C of IP addresses. You know, I've got a project that I'm going to be working on next spring where, you know, and I'm probably going to create a video about how to get your ASN and about how to go out to market and about how to go out to auction and buy your own IP addresses. So it doesn't matter who your ISP is. So you can route them, you know, everywhere you want, anywhere you want. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else really interesting. But if you get a chance to see that totally armored cable, that is interesting. So this is this is the Cat 6, and it's actually shielded. And man, it is stiff. And this is verified. So this is actually Cat. I'm sorry, this is not Cat 6. This is Cat 5e direct burial outdoor. So it's got a shielding and stuff like that. So I'm going to have to do some shots of this stuff, get the camera out, take some pictures. And so if you're not following me on Twitter and Instagram, you can do that. When I start posting those pictures, you'll get to see it. Have I ever used CX4 10 gig? Can't say that I have, Jacob. Can you say NAT? It saved IP version 4. So had we went to classless routing much earlier and forced people to get NAT. So I'll tell you this, I have a couple customers, big companies. One of them is a fertilizer company. So if you search around the internet for nationwide fertilizer companies, there's only a couple you're going to run into. So, but when we went to configure workstations and equipment, they literally had routable live IP addresses on all equipment. And I was like, this is a horrible idea. Like, and their admins are nowhere in the state. Their admins are in like Pennsylvania. So, I mean, hey, NAT's been around for a long time. When I first started doing consulting, late 90s, NAT was already there. We already had, multi-tech firewalls that could do NAT. NAT's been around for a very long time. We should have been using it, and we should force people to use NAT, Yeah. So that's fine if you want to use Cat 7 at home. It's not a ratified standard, so you're not going to see it installed in businesses. And if somebody does convince somebody to install them, shame on them, because it's just not a good idea to use things that aren't real standards. So somebody says, is that fiber coiled up behind you by the circuit breaker box? Are you lucky enough to have a fiber feed from your ISP? Greg Curry. So that is yes, I have fiber. Right? So it's fiber from the road, which is over this direction. It's fiber all the way to the outside of my house. This is where it gets weird. I don't know if you can see it, but on that bottom shelf back there, there's a cable modem. So on the outside of my house is what's called a mini node. That's what they called it. And it converts the fiber over to DOCSIS, a DOCSIS cable system. It's totally, and so I have to power their node outside from inside. And so it's powered over coax. So it actually comes into the house. Coax is converted out from fiber to coax. And I asked them if they could hook me up fiber. And they said if they do that, they lose control. And so they're not going to do that. So no, that is not fiber. That is, I don't know if it's RG59 or whatever it is. It's whatever they ran, and I just coiled it up and put it over there. Let's see. I have a self-made Cat5e run terminated in a network jack, but I just get 100 megabits, even if the cheap tester says it's connected in every connector. Why? Well, there could be several things. You know, how long is the run? How long, or what kind of connectors are you using? Are you using a standard pinout? There's a lot of reasons why you may not get 100 megabit. Are both devices 100 megabit? So there's a lot of things that can go wrong in cabling. David G, just joined the stream. What did I miss? And what were you guys talking about? We are talking about everything tonight, David G. So just chime in. No, NAT is not a firewall. NAT is definitely not a firewall. So the like where we've come, we have devices that blur the lines, right? If you go to larger organizations, you're not going to have all-in-one boxes. They're going to have, firewalls. They're going to have, devices, routers, they're going to split those functions out, but smaller sites, we can collapse all that and run our router, our firewall, do our NAT, everything in one box. So, and it's kind of made us lazy, to be honest with you. Unky Joe has 1 gig fiber, but he's only using 100 meg. So Sean says that when he worked at an ISP, they did mini nodes in hotels. So, that was my hydro flask. I worked for a company, and we actually, in Peoria, Illinois, we installed the first hotel that ever had high-speed internet in Peoria, Illinois. And we used to use a system by a company called Tut Systems, and it was basically a DSL or not a DSL. Yeah, an ADSL D-SLAM. We cross-connected to the rooms, and then there was a little box that went in each room, but it was actually called HPNA, so it wasn't DSL. And it worked pretty well, and we installed that a lot. So, and then the hotels actually started wiring with, Cat5, and but it was definitely an adventure. NAT should have never been used. We should have gone IP version 6 long ago. Opinions are like eyelashes, buddy. Everybody's got one. Some, maybe. Depends. I have an electrician that doesn't have any eyebrows. What does that say? Anyway. Let's see here. Yeah, a good conversation here. So John says the topology map in the Unify latest controller is not displaying any ideas. Go beat on the forums. Be prepared to be asked to upload log files. I'm not 100% sure what the state of some of that stuff is. All I can tell you, go to the forum, the Ubiquity community, make sure you got your log files, and post your problems. Grant says, I live in a city apartment and pay for Fios, but fiber comes into my basement and then it runs coax to my apartment. Which degradation occurs? I can bridge from their router to mine over your own coax. So my ISP can actually now give me gigabit. It's expensive. So where we used to live, we had the fiber ISP and a 1 gig symmetrical, no data cap, $74.99 a month. Well, they are 3 miles that away, and I'm on the list. And as soon as they turn right, just turn right. That's all you got to do. turn right, come down the road. I'll go knock on neighbors' doors. Let's do this, because $74.99 versus 100, I think, on special gigabit, and it's not symmetrical. It's 100 down or a gig down, and then I think either 50 or 100 meg up, and it's $149.99 a month. So, and they say there's no data cap, but there's asterisks and air quotes all over the place. Hey, Australia representing. Good. I'm glad you're here, Tony. David Morton. Hey, Willie. Spoke to Verizon to replace home Verizon G1100. They warned me TV guide and things would never work, even if bridge mode. Yeah, so that's one problem with Fios, is if you have TV and other services that Verizon is delivering, that if you do put it in bridge mode, that a lot of times those services won't work. But I will tell you also, so, you know, in your specific case, David, we're probably going to have to figure something else out. But some parts of the country, we can put those things in bridge mode, and the router will let us do that. Some of them we can't. I just had one the other night. I could not put it in bridge mode. And so I'm double natted, and we're having some call issues, some NAT issues with calling. And so now we're trying to get Verizon on the phone to see if they will put it in bridge mode. But I don't know how that's going to work out for us. So we may end up having to switch providers, something that can handle the NAT a little bit differently. No, my ISP does not have IP version 6. So, but the ISP, a couple towns over, is you might have heard of them. They're called Comcast, and they've been pumping out. So let's talk about IP version 6, right? Everybody wants IP version 6 tutorials. They can't tell me why necessarily, but of all the customers I've worked with over the last, you know, I started doing the consulting back in 2016. Of all the customers I've worked with of all the other subcontracting work I've done for other people, of all the design I've ever done, I've had one client in the last 2 years, and I just did it 2 weeks ago, that needs IP version 6, and he's in Chicago, and he doesn't need it. He only wanted it because it makes some sites faster. So, you know, it's, you know, IP version 4 is going to be around. So I'm going to be almost 40. So that means I probably got about another 25 good years left, and IP version 4 is still going to be around. And it's still going to be prevalent by the time I retire. It's not going anywhere. So just get used to it. You can complain all you want, but IP version 4 is not going anywhere. It's just not. Are you still planning a series on Pfsense? Chris, you bet I am. I actually have behind me on the rack, you can see this is a Protectly 6-port here. The very first video, excuse me, that I am working on, and I'm actually working with Protectly on this, is I've got my red. Somebody wanted to know what size this is. This is a 2 gig micro cruiser, and it's you know, it's got Pfsense on it, and so I'm gonna show you how to install or reinstall Pfsense properly on a Protectly appliance and get it up and going. So, all right, yeah. So other parts of the world do have much cheaper, much more affordable internet than we do have at a lot of the places here in the United States. And that's a problem, because the internet really, I mean, 2020, it's hard to do a lot of things without internet, man. It's very difficult. Isaac says, running my Unify controller on my Synology Docker, time to upgrade the latest version of the controller. Should be fun. Yeah. As much of a Synology fan as I am, and as much of a Unify fan as I am, I don't use the Docker stuff at all. I know there's videos out there. I don't make videos just to get views. The videos I have previously, but like now I'm at a point where like the videos like need to mean, you know, something. So that's just like, yeah, you're going to see a video also if you are running the GrandStream video access points, which, by the way, every time I rip out Ubiquity and I put GrandStream in, I swear to you, And if James was on here, he could verify this. But every time we rip out Ubiquity and put Grandstream access points in, the customer talks about how much faster and how stable their Wi-Fi is. So, but now here's the thing. We actually have an on-premise controller for Grandstream. Well, we did before with the router or with an access point, but this is a dedicated box that runs on CentOS or Red Hat Enterprise Linux. And I've been pushing hard for router support. And I heard somebody told me that they may be having Ethernet switches coming. So we'll see what happens with that. But that would be awesome because that would totally give them the total stack from tip to stern. Nathan in the house. Nathan is the CEO and creator of NetTool. So everybody say hello to Nathan. And I'm working on a class for the base version of the NetTool. You're going to be able to go through there and go through the learning modules, take an exam, and you get a nice little certificate that says, you are proficient with using a NetTool. So that's going to be fun. That's the first learning module that we're going to be putting out on our LMS. So Tim is working hard on the LMS, and I can't wait to get that up and going. And I do have very limited experience with IP version 6. I can configure it. I can set it up. Here in the States, when you ask Comcast for IP version 6 addresses, they give you like more addresses than you're ever going to use for anything. So we're going to run into the same thing eventually because there's so many IP version 6 addresses. They're just handing these things out in such big chunks. So I'm surprised though that you're not, talking about IP7 or IP8 or whatever is out there, because you love your Cat 7. But IP version 6, there's nothing wrong with it, but just for what I do, there's no demand for it. Let's see. Unky Joe says our internet is way behind in the US, but it's getting better. Yeah, if we can stop greedy companies, these large corporations from getting the rural broadband money and then not actually deploying rural broadband networks and last mile networks to people who need the internet access, I totally agree with that, Unky Joe. Let's see. Somebody says the Dream Machine is a home small business device. It is more of a home device. I would not. So I have a customer who's going to be having an audit from the MPAA, and they have a Dream Machine Pro, and it's going to be very interesting to see how that goes. If James were here, he'd tell you we've pulled more UDM Pros out of production since COVID-19 started than we installed Ubiquity gear on the last quarter of last year. Yeah. David says I would not use a Dream Machine in a business, and I have clients that they want it. Ubiquity's got great marketing, and Ubiquity makes great stuff. But I haven't made the full Dream Machine Pro video yet because I don't know. There's some real weird firmware things with it right now, but they're working on it. I love Ubiquity, right? I'm not trying to come down on them, but they've got some firmware issues. They are aware of it. They've got people working on it. So we'll see how it works out. Sean Woods is in the crowd. He can bring us up to speed on that. Yeah. Protectly makes great hardware, imported or whatever. I'm sure somebody's going to say it's an import. Yeah. And it is, but it works great. And I am forming a really great relationship with Protectly, and hope to keep that going into the future. Unky Joe, you definitely do need to do a side-by-side comparison of the Grandstream APs versus the Unify APs. They're solid. They're just solid. Brandon says, I've got 2 school buildings running nothing but nanos in every room, and it's stable. You can get a stable deployment. There's no doubt about it. I'm not saying that the Ubiquity is not good stuff. And every vendor, let me put this out there right now. Every vendor has firmware issues. Every vendor. So if somebody tells you that a vendor is walk on water perfect, they're trying to sell you a bill of goods. Every vendor has firmware issues. Every vendor has support issues. It is the state of what is. IT At one time I thought we were like unifying and IT was going to be, but IT has just exploded and we're back to the wild, wild west in IT. And that's just how it is. So yeah, edge router, in my opinion, no, you're not going to get the throughput unless you go with the Infinity. But so these days, I am installing a lot of Grandstream APs, still installing Unify, supporting Unify. I'll always support Unify, because there's always going to be people that use it. But if you haven't given the Grandstream APs a shot, you should definitely take a look at them. The Cisco small business switch that's in the rack. It is the SG350-10P. So it does PoE. So we're going to see that as well. So the latest thing that we ran into on the Dream Machine is that there were some models of access points that would immediately adopt and then go disconnected. And you couldn't get them to talk again. And we had to upgrade to 1.7.2. Right now, Ubiquiti is working. I've uploaded all the files they've requested. I have users that have L2TP IPsec VPNs, Road Warrior VPNs, and they can connect, but there's no firewall rules, but they can't see their network. So we're trying to figure out what's going on with that. So Ubiquiti is fully aware of that, and we gave them all the log files and everything they need. Let's see here. David G says, my personal opinion, a Pfsense is a good VPN firewall box for small business. Yeah, I like OpenSense. The community for OpenSense is much friendlier, in my opinion. If you're on my Twitter, you'll know that after I did the first Protectly video, somebody from Pfsense came on and started like attacking me. And this person, I don't know what it was, but he ended up deleting his tweets because he was wrong. And it was just the organization. I like Pfsense, but for people to act like that it's a turnoff, really. Sean Woods, you thought he was the Mousetrap guy. No, Sean Woods is not the Mousetrap guy. Chris says, I use IP version 6 here on my fiber connection in Australia, but totally agree. It's more than he needed. And yeah, so my customer in Chicago, absolutely. Some of the things that he was doing, his speed tests and a few of the websites, if you have websites that support IP version 6, it is going to be faster. And he actually showed me that it was faster. So it was a good deal. Do you believe we will eventually see a boom in WISPs? So I think that WISPs are, there are new WISPs popping up all the time. I'm getting emails all the time, people needing help configuring things all the time. I support a lot of small WISPs. There are other people out there that also support WISPs, support much larger WISPs and build huge WISPs. WISPs are not going away. WISPs. Starlink is not going to kill WISPs. As smart as Elon Musk is, it'll be interesting to see how their services, right? So if you're a WISP and you're worried about like a service like Starlink coming in and taking your customers, as long as you've got good customer service and you're fair to people and you're not a ding dong, I think you're going to compete just fine against Starlink and you're not going to have any issues. You still have to remember it is still a satellite, right? So we'll see how it works. Yeah, HughesNet's garbage. I'm sorry. It is not good. It is not good. The whole package is just from the latency to the data caps. It's ridiculous. And I understand it's expensive to run that, but they're one of the few ISPs that run like that. Where would you use a UAP ACM Pro over a UAP ACM? So I use both of those outside, and if you're going to actually use them in mesh mode, that's where I would Pro out. I use them both outdoors because they're completely, weatherproof. And so when we've got a spot that just needs a little bit of Wi-Fi and it's hardwired in, we throw out the standard mesh. when we need a little bit more oomph, or we're going to actually do some temporary meshing, that's when I put the Pro in. I actually have a video where when I was testing the UAP AC Mesh Pro, it ran in my shower. And I don't know if Sean Woods ever saw the video or not, but I actually had the UAP AC Mesh Pro in my shower on a tripod, the shower running, cold water running on it for 24 hours. And it ran flawlessly. It was great. Let's see. Have I tried the U6 in-wall? Even if I had, it's a beta product. I cannot talk about beta products. I cannot talk about early access products that, they've asked us to not do that, to not discuss them. So sorry about that. Wisps. Yeah, HughesNet, I think, is in trouble. Wild Blue, I think, is the other one. So Pat Leonard asks, where did you get the thumb screws for your rack? So those are actually rack studs. And they sent me these a long time ago. Things are fantastic because what you can do is you can pop them in, and there's 3 different versions of these, 4 different versions of these now. So they just came out with like Gen 2. These are the ones for smaller racks. The ones that are Gen 1 that are for the thicker racks are blue. But it's really nice because you pop them in, and you don't have to deal with this. And there's another company that's supposed to be sending me some sort of rack nuts that are like easier to work with. But this is a rack nut or a cage nut, and you've got to bend the metal with your fingers. And some people are okay with that, and I hate it. And hate's a strong word, but I hate that. So with the rack studs, now I had some people hating on rack studs, right? And I have a feeling so have you ever read the directions for a curling iron? There's a thing in the warning on curling irons, and it says for external use only, right? So that means that somebody used a curling iron in a non-external use only, which is why we have the warning, right? So I have a feeling that some of the people who really, really hate the rack studs, and one of them used to frequent the channel and used to work for a company that dealt with racks and stuff like that. He really, really hated them, but he couldn't tell me why. And then he finally said, well, I had some equipment fall. Well, if you read the instructions on this particular bag of rack studs, this 2.2 version with the hole size, the rail thickness, 14 gauge. If you read the instructions, never, ever, ever, ever mount a piece of equipment that weighs over 44 pounds with this particular set. None of those switches in that rack weigh over 44 pounds. I think the heaviest switch I've got in there right now weighs in at about 15 pounds, right? So am I afraid that those are going to fall? Absolutely not. I read the instructions. There's a warning, and it tells you right on the back, do not use these for a piece of equipment that weighs over 44 pounds. So I'm guessing that somebody put a big Dell 7R whatever server in there, and then it fell and crashed and burned, and they didn't read the back, right? It's the same reason we got on coffee cups. There's a warning, hot. Well, thanks. That's awesome. All right. Off that high horse. Let's see here. Richard says, I just received my Synology RT2600 AC. You are going to love that. So David, let me tell you, so this is the Yeti Blue, like their special edition, and you can probably, so there's a water pipe. This is reminiscent of the old setup of the old house in a little bit of a way, because if you ever watched those videos, I would have to pause the video when somebody flushed a toilet upstairs because you could hear the water. So you might hear the water a little bit there, but so Untangle back in the day when it was completely open source, and here's the thing, you can absolutely eat open source, and I support open source. I donate to open source. If I coded, I would contribute code back to open source projects, right? And in an appropriate environment, I will pay for the license and all that good stuff, because I believe in supporting those communities. Open source is so vital to the world we live in 2020. So vital. But back in the day when Untangled first came out, it was completely free. You could download all the things, and then they monetized it, right? But back in the day, and you might still be able to go to this, but if anybody in the crowd remembers this, back in the day with Untangle, it actually looked on the screen like a virtual rack. And every module you used looked like it was a modular, a one-use server screwed into the rack, and you could turn it on and off. It was awesome. But Untangle's okay. It's okay. I prefer Pfsense or Pfsense over Untangle at the moment. There's some other Linux-based distros that I do like. I like IPCOP. I like Devil Linux, Endian Firewall, you name it. There's 100 of them out there. There's a lot of really good ones. So let's see here. Can you do a Grand Stream AP setup video, and how do you control it? So if you go out to my channel, go out to my Grand Stream playlist, I have videos on their access points and the setups, but I am going to do a whole setup on that now that we've got the on-site controller. So Greg Curry's asking, like, what is the main feed that WISPs are getting? Like, there are some WISPs that have a gig coming in. There are some WISPs that have 10, 20, 40 gigs coming in. I mean, there are some pretty hefty WISPs. So I have a customer in Louisiana that has gig. I've got another customer that's got 500 meg. And when you're an ISP, the deal is to oversubscribe, right? As you're sending traffic in bursts, and you can set ISP back in the late 90s. For every modem that I had 8 people. And when I first started, I had 32 modems, and believe it or not, I had a 256K lease line, and those were all 33.6 modems that would actually connect at 56K, even though to get 56K, you were supposed to be digital, blah, blah, blah. But we did all of that. We started out with a fractional T1, 256K. It was beautiful. We bumped our way up a little bit, but ISPs definitely oversubscribe, and they have to. All right, let's see what else we've got in the comments here. David says, oh, so I do have a client out in Utah, and he has 10 gig and 10 gig coming in, and he's a WISP, and he has asked me if I want to send a server out there. He's asked me if I want to do hosted voice over IP. So we're trying to figure out what makes sense for us to work together on. But his internet connection is so stupid fast that he can't find, I mean, there's like one, you're just going to connect some PCs and that's it. I mean, step up to a managed switch, you won't regret it. And one that can do VLANs. All right, so what to use on a 50 to 100 unit hotel that is faster than a USG Pro? They have 1 gig times 2. Sounds like a Dream Machine Pro. No, I would not use a Dream Machine Pro. I am oversubscribed. There's 63 of you. Who knows? This is wireless to here. I got kids playing games, all kinds of stuff. But let me know if it keeps cutting out. But for a 50 to 100 unit hotel, I would use MikroTik in-wall APs, and I would put one in every room. I've quoted a couple of hotels like that, and they're so inexpensive that you will beat every other vendor every other time. And if you know how to configure MikroTik, you are going to be in great shape. All right, so that looks like that's the last of the questions there. We're coming in on the 1 hour mark. Yeah, why? David says, why does everyone insist on a Dream Machine? The UDM for a business. There's a couple other YouTubers. You know, there's Network Chuck. I've never talked to him. I know he really loves the Dream Machine. I'm not, you know, he's traditionally a Cisco guy. And then there's Jeremy Ciora. I don't know what his name is, his last name is for sure. But, you know, they are pushing, you know, the UDM pros and stuff like that. And Jeremy, you know, used to be Cisco. And now so I don't know. I don't know if they're paying him. I don't know. But that's why I don't do paid reviews. I'm going to tell you this. My authenticity of my review and how I use the product would definitely be altered. So I never get paid for any of this. Because if I did, I wouldn't be giving you an actual review of my actual thoughts about a product. So I never take money for review. I do take equipment. They send me the equipment. The deal is I get to keep the equipment, but I am never paid, and they never get to watch the videos beforehand or put a hand on anything that I say to you. It would be, and the thing is let's put it out there right now. Ubiquity's not perfect. GrandStream's not perfect. Sangoma's not perfect. Yealink's not perfect. I mean, name a vendor. None of them are perfect. They all have their flaws, and it's about how you integrate, that into your workflow, and about how you can use those products or understand those products to actually get the end result that you want. So, let's see here. I don't recommend the UDM Pro for business. Businesses. So like I just was at a client site this morning, and I'm quoting them a Protectly 4-port running Pfsense. We're putting in a GrandStream phone system. And so I got to get that all quoted. And I just, somebody says, what's to say they don't cherry pick units to send you? So I don't know if they cherry pick units or not, but so this next camera you're going to see, Reolink was like, hey, we want you to do another Reolink, the camera that I'm going to show you. They're not paying me. They sent it to me. I do get to keep it, but it was my free choice of what camera to review for you. So, and I don't think they're cherry picking anything as far as so I know Tom Lawrence and I both got the Aruba APs, and we got the switch. Chris over at Crosstalk did the instant on APs, but I don't know if he got the switch. And a lot of times what happens is when Ubiquity sends out gear, they will send all three of us the exact same gear, right? So it's I don't think they're cherry picking, so we'll have to see, how that works out. So I've got some customers. If you want to talk to some people about the UDM Pro in the real world, email me and I will make sure it's okay, and we'll get you some real world references on that. I'm not saying it's not a good product. I'm saying that it's not my go-to for business installations. So we're installing a lot of Pfsense and Pfsense based solutions. Bob Carpenter said, Bob sent me some coffee. Thank you for that, Bob. And he sent me some stuff, and he said, man, this stuff is rocket fuel. Be careful Bob, that stuff is cherry pick the equipment that they send us, because they send us all, and they got to know that we all talk. Man, there goes that Hydro Flask again. But they got to know that we all talk, right? Like I just talked to Tom Lawrence last night for a half hour, 45 minutes. So they've got to know that we talk. They got to know that we know what each other's getting. And we all certainly follow each other on social media and YouTube. So we all know, what's going on, even if we're not, direct sharing plans. So, so do I think they're cherry picking? No, I think they're very strategic about how they do things. That's for sure. And if you look at it from a business standpoint, from Ubiquity, I mean, it's very smart for them to go to somebody like Network Chuck, who's got 100,000 plus subscribers. Who knows in affiliate links how many UDMs he has sold them, right? Or Jeremy over there. I don't know how many followers he's got, but think about just the sales that are driven from Amazon affiliate links. I mean, they probably sold quite a few units. So can they give those guys a couple of units? Sure. It's definitely an interesting thing. But all right, so we've been at this for an hour. The stream is cutting out. I hope the video looked decent. Like I said, this is with my Canon M50. Now that I got the fake battery, and it's just got, a couple videos that I'm going to do on some GrandStream products and get them out too. Like I'm doing a high availability setup, right? So, I've got to put those in the rack, get that done. So there's a lot, but we're making it. 2020 is the year that keeps giving. So I'm glad you were all here with me Tonight, yeah, it's late. It's 9 o'clock on a Saturday night, and I've got a, like a 15 meg or 20 meg upload. So, but I'm glad you were with me here tonight. Please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe, comment, share, follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Ask anybody. I return every single email, every single form, contact form. I personally respond to all of that. It takes me a while sometimes because I have time periods where I can't do that, but I do respond to absolutely everybody that reaches out. So my Instagram is howx5. So check that out. And my Twitter is Willie Howe. And so you can check both of those out. I post things that I find amusing and all that good stuff. So, and actually Joe from Cajoling Technologies is here. You can thank him for the better lighting. We've been talking a lot about lighting. Joe is a gentleman and a scholar, and he understands lighting and video, so he's helping me with that. So thank you to Joe from Cajoling Technologies. Thank you, Jacob. I'll be in touch about that rack. So thank you for everybody for being here. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. And now I have to, bye.